What's up, my beautiful people? Exile451 here with yet another daily dose of Reddit Hope and Happy, and today we're going into r/AskReddit where parents can get called to the principal's office to pick up their kid for saying a no-no word. So, let's get to it. My kid got in huge trouble in kindergarten. A girl told the teacher he said the S word. He lost recess, they called me, it was a big deal. I went to pick him up and said, "So, what's the S word?" And he stared at his shoes and whispered, "Sexy." Yeah, confirmed by the little tattletale. All of this was caused by sexy. Follow-up comment to that. My son in about grade 3 came home and he sheepishly told me that he got in trouble for saying the C word. I was flabbergasted. I mean, I can be a bit of a sailor in my speech sometimes, but I've never said that word around any of my kids or family. It turns out the C word in question was crap. When I spoke to the teacher, she had exactly the same reaction. It was a fellow student that turned him in. Needless to say, he did not get in trouble. I got a phone call earlier this year from the school nurse saying she was concerned because my son had passed out while in the lunch line. I went to pick him up and he seemed a little dazed, but overall okay. My kid couldn't remember anything about what happened beforehand, so I made an appointment with his pediatrician for an hour later. Right as we were getting ready to leave, he sheepishly said, "Mom, I just remembered that right before I passed out, we were playing a game to see who could turn their face the reddest." So my kid had me thinking he had a brain tumor, but no. He just held his breath until he passed out. And not a single other kid thought they should mention that to the teacher. Follow up on that one? Embarrassed to admit, but I've done this before. I was getting ready for school in the morning and decided out of the blue to do this. Promptly passed out and cracked my head on the dresser on the way down. I came to almost immediately and just sat there on the floor confused as to what happened. I already had this huge lump forming on my head and a killer headache, but I didn't want to tell my dad because I didn't want him to be mad. So I went to school and was miserable all day. When I got home, I finally told my sister. She took one look at me and ran to tell Mom. I had a goose egg-sized lump on my head. All said and done, I had 2 MRIs and a sleep test. Don't know the proper name. Everything turned out fine in the end. I never admitted I passed out because I held my breath too long. My youngest had a slight speech impediment when he was at nursery. He would replace his S's with F's to approximate the sound. I had to have a chat with the head at pickup time because I'd unthinkingly used the phrase, "So long, suckers," when pulling away from some traffic lights the day before, and he liked the sound of it so much he used it himself. Okay, so I know I'm getting into random life stories really early here, but this kind of reminds me of a story from my childhood. And I think I've mentioned this one before, where I was at church with my parents, and I was still kind of learning how to talk, and so when I was trying to pronounce, like, the TR sound, for some reason it came out the F sound. And my parents had me there at church, and I've got this little toy truck, and I think you can see where this is headed. According to my mom, I started just hitting the pew with his little toy truck, just saying the F word repeatedly, just like F, F, F. And, I can only imagine how red their faces were. I was in an early morning college class, and when I got out, I realized I had missed calls, texts, and emails from my daughter's preschool. A voicemail said she had been throwing up and to please hurry and come get her. When I got to the school, the receptionist showed me to a room where my daughter was sat with a trash can on her lap. She told me my daughter kept announcing she was throwing up and then would cough and spit into the trash can. She had no fever and was otherwise cheerful and talkative. I signed her out, got her outside and into my car, where she jumped forward and kissed my cheek and told me she missed me and where would I like to go for lunch. That kid busted herself out of preschool to finagle a lunch date with me, and it worked. Oh, I know my parents never would have let that fly. Oh, I would have been in so much trouble. Follow up on that. I got a call that my son was sick and that I had to come pick him up. He was completely fine that morning. I asked the nurse, "He really can't go back to class?" And she said, He says he's really sick. Fine. I picked him up, and on the walk home, I asked what was up. He said he had to fart really badly and didn't want to do it in class. I laughed and said, okay. 2 days later, I get another call to pick him up, so I got him, and it was for the same reason. I told him that it was funny once, but that from now on, if he needed to fart in class, he should go to the bathroom. Hey, having accidentally done that in junior high, I will tell you that is one of the most embarrassing things you can ever do in school. I totally get this kid. I was called in because the elementary school was going on a field trip that my son forgot to give me the permission slip for. He decided to give forgery a whirl. This was in first grade, so the handwriting was awful. He also signed my name, Mom. Follow up on that. Only time I got sent to the principal's office was for something like that. My horrible 4th grade teacher screamed and screamed how we had to turn our stuff in with a mom's signature and how we'd be awful human beings if we didn't. Well, I forgot to bring the thing home one night, so I traced her signature from the day before. Hey, at least you were smart enough to trace it rather than try and forge it, because, yeah, that's not gonna work, especially at that grade. My mother was called to pick me and my twin sister up because we were turning blue. I think it was 4th grade. We felt fine though. It was only after she arrived that we all remembered she had put brand new blue flannel sheets on our bed the night before. Apparently, she hadn't washed them first. Follow up on that? I got banned from wearing my favorite yellow shirt to school because the public health nurse kept thinking I had yellow jaundice. It didn't bleed dye onto me. I was just so white that the color reflected onto my skin. I had super bad allergies as a child, to the point where I had awful dark circles under my eyes that legitimately looked like bruises. I had the principal and my teacher asking if everything was okay at home and pointed to my eyes. I let them know about my allergies and they skeptically accepted that answer. 2 weeks later, I stepped in a large hole in the ground by accident and fell flat on my face, giving me an actual black eye. Trying to explain to the principal, my teacher, and the school counselor that I actually fell was no easy task. Okay, so funny, yes, but let's be honest, you gotta give all 3 of them props for at least going out of their way to make sure that it was legitimately like an accident and actually showing that level of care and concern. And something like that, it's sometimes better to be too cautious than too trusting. On the flip side of this question, many years ago, my dad was a principal at a high school and regularly was the one who had to punish the students when they did something bad. My dad is white, and the offending student who did something wrong is black. The student went straight for the racial card, accusing my dad that the only reason he's getting punished is because he's black and that my dad is a racist. My dad then proceeds to pull out a family picture from his desk drawer. It has my mom, who's black, as well as us kids who are mixed, black/white, and Asian, as my parents adopted as well. So we as a family are pretty well represented across races. Apparently, it was the biggest look of shock and horror on the student's face and received a larger punishment for lashing out and calling my dad a racist. My dad does not take kindly to racism, especially since his relationship started at a time when interracial relationships, let alone marriage, was not very widely accepted. Okay, now I know that necessarily being married to or having a best friend who's a minority or anything like that doesn't immediately absolve anyone from being able to be a racist. I know there's that argument out there. However, that is kind of a really strong trump card moment. I mean, yeah. Oh gosh, can you imagine being that kid? Like your one defense, the one thing that you think you can use to get out of anything, your ultimate get out of jail free card, is just turned back around on you that quickly. Oh. When my daughter was in 2nd or 3rd grade, I got a call about a present she had brought to school. So the night before, she asked to go to the store to buy some Rolos because it was her friend's birthday. She wrapped them up and put them in her backpack. I never saw her finish them up, or I would have stopped her right then and there. She had wrapped up each Rolo in red paper, bundled a few together, put little black pipe cleaner fuses on them, and attached a note that said, "You're the bomb." The school was not amused. I thought it was very clever though. And there were no repercussions, thankfully. For a second or third grader, that's pretty clever. My dad got sent to the principal's office for telling his 6th grade teacher she was pronouncing the state capital of South Dakota wrong. She kept saying Pierre, 2 syllables like the French name. And he said it was Pierre, 1 syllable, like what you fish off of. He was sent off for not respecting a teacher's authority. My grandma had to drive to school to talk to the teacher and principal and says, "Did you ask why he says it's Pierre? Because if you did, you'd find out that both his father and I are from South Dakota. He visits his grandparents and aunts and uncles in South Dakota every summer. He knows plenty of people from South Dakota who all say Pierre. Do you know anyone from South Dakota? No? Well, take it from a South Dakotan. It's Pierre. We're not fancy French people, and stop wasting my time." Dang, lay it down. Oh, man. My little brother liked cheese and mustard sandwiches, so my mom made him cheese and mustard sandwiches for lunch. When the teacher asked why he didn't have any meat on his sandwich, he either said, "We can't afford meat," or "My mom doesn't let me," or something like that. Whatever he said was enough to send CPS over to the house. Another time, he came to school saying that his mom loved Coke, that his mom said she's addicted to Coke. CPS was called again. They lived in a different area this time. Coca-Cola. My mom couldn't go a day without a Coke, so she'd joke that she was addicted to Coke. I do see the irony that she was actually addicted to a drug, just not the one CPS was worried about. Okay, first off, cheese and mustard sandwiches. Oh my gosh. That just, I can't even wrap my head around that. Granted, I don't really have much room to talk personally, because when I was a kid, I used to make what are called ketchup burritos, where I would take a tortilla, put ketchup in it, fold it in half, toast it, and eat it, and I loved them. I tried it once when I was in high school again, and I couldn't stomach it. I was like, why on earth was this ever appealing to me? So, I guess I don't have much room to talk. Yeah, kids. Follow up on that. In high school shop class, the teacher was upset at my friend because his work area was messy. The teacher said something like, "Would your mother tolerate this at home?" Kid responded, "My mother is always at the bar." Teacher just walked away. I said, "Your mother works at the bar." He replied, "Got him to stop talking." Funniest one I've ever heard. My kid's surprisingly well behaved. At school was a parent having to come get their kid after they were caught selling imaginary friends to the younger students for $1 a piece. What can you say? Kid's got a business-oriented mind. That was r/AskReddit, and if you want more funny or uplifting AskReddit content, then go ahead and check out the playlist link in the description below, or just click the left button right here on the end screen. Now, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, stay inside if you're supposed to. I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, I'm Exile451. Stay beautiful, people.